Hi, Acadiana. And happy Friday to you as I grip the right control here. Hopefully everybody's having a great day today, and I'm hoping that you are ready for a great big weekend. So all in all, we're in good shape for Tropics for the next couple of days, and of course we'll go through everything that's out there, and also going to spend a little bit of time on some of the storm surge inundation maps, and I do have the links below now in the description, so if you want to check that out a little bit later on. We're going to kind of go through it parish by parish here in just a little bit. But as far as our tropics, our traffic cameras rather, we are looking at partly cloudy skies. Just heard a little thunder here at my house here in Lafayette, little shower trying to develop. Also, the roadways for the most part have been dry, but the showers and thunderstorms are fairly isolated out there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the radar. And most of you on the western half of Acadiana now starting to catch some of this rain here over parts of Acadia Parish and getting into Jeff Davis and Cameron as well. And a little shower there on the south side of Lafayette. That might have been some of the thunder that I heard just a little while ago. Some really pretty tropical skies out there this afternoon, and I think we'll see more of that later on in the day. Well, the only guy we got in town is this very, very weak disturbance that's right off the coast of Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, and north of the Bahamas. You got a little bit of a spin right there, maybe a low pressure area here, and that is forecast to go ahead and roll inland. So the National Hurricane Center has that as a plot on there, but between the next 48 hours and the next 7 days, they're giving it now a 0% chance for development. So some showers and thunderstorms along the East Coast, but I don't think we're going to have to worry about any tropical development in that particular area. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Gulf of Mexico, and in the lower levels, we've got that good stream of moisture coming in off the Gulf and pushing in from the south. Old frontal boundary still probably right about in here, maybe extending back toward the southwest. That is eventually going to just wash out. So basically the full force of all of this warm, moist air will be able to slide northward and even start to make its way into central and northern portions of Louisiana over the next couple of days. But as far as any tropical weather, there's really not much to talk about here in the Gulf of Mexico. But I did want to point out, if you see a little bit of this grayness down here, a little bit of haze that's coming in, that is actually Saharan dust that's starting to pull its way in from the Caribbean, and more of that is going to be heading into the Gulf of Mexico and could be overhead here in Acadiana. So if you're out and about early in the morning or maybe late in the evening and you got your camera handy, Saharan dust can really enhance those sunrises and sunsets. So if you get any cool pictures, try to share those on my Facebook page. That would be great to see those, or on X as well. Here is the Central American satellite. Again, not a whole lot going on out there. Let me get back to the Central American satellite there. And we've got some showers and thunderstorms that are continuing over parts of Honduras and Nicaragua, but the rains are not quite as heavy as what they were, as most of the energy from that tropical wave is now starting to push westward. And we'll have to watch the western part of the Pacific Ocean here to see if maybe we get some development on the west side of Central America. Meanwhile, out here in the Caribbean, really, again, not a lot going on. You can kind of see on the maps the Saharan dust once again. Yesterday, we were able to see the streaks of the Saharan dust making its way through the islands here yesterday. I don't see it quite as well on the satellite imagery today, but it was kind of a cool shot. If you want to check out Let's Talk Tropics from yesterday, all of the old ones are listed on my YouTube page, and you can look at those whenever you want. But we do have a bit of a tropical wave right here. It's kind of pushing off toward the west. It's bringing some showers and thunderstorms to Trinidad, Barbados, and out here to around St. Vincent, and that's going to continue to move its way off toward the west. Meanwhile, the tropical Atlantic is also pretty quiet, and we're just inundated with Saharan dust. You can really see it coming off of the African coast, making its way across the Atlantic Ocean into the Caribbean as well. And as I said, some of this is going to work its way into the Gulf of Mexico over the course of the weekend. So with all of that dry air and Saharan dust there, and also over the eastern part of the Atlantic, any tropical wave that is out there is really going to be struggling. Tropical wave here, maybe another tropical wave right about here, and then here's the other one kind of working its way westward, and then there's yet one more that's over by the Windward Islands, but you can just really see the Saharan dust just pouring off of the African continent. So as long as that's there, I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of activity getting going, because that weighs the atmosphere down, and anything that tries to develop when it gets weighted down like that just can't get itself organized. So the map of the Saharan dust, we could see it pretty well there on the satellite imagery, but this is the enhanced imagery, and there's just a ton of it now coming off of the African coast. So this is going to be the case here for the next several days. So I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of tropical activity developing over the Atlantic Basin. The only places that would have a chance outside of the Saharan dust might be over here near the Bahamas, or perhaps the extreme western and southwestern part of the Caribbean. But even the Gulf of Mexico is going to start to get in on some of that Saharan dust. So things developing close to home don't look very likely either. And as far as the wind shear, it has relaxed quite a bit out here over the middle part of the Atlantic Ocean. So if anything was to try to develop there, if we didn't have the dry air and Saharan dust, we might have a chance there. What we've got here along the East Coast is being inundated with some pretty strong wind shear. Central part of the Caribbean Sea as well has some high wind shear, and the Bay of Campeche too. So won't see any development in those areas. So really there's not a whole lot going for hurricane season. And July is normally a quiet month, even though it started out with a bang with Hurricane Beryl and also Tropical Storm Chris coming along for the early couple of days of July. Usually we call it the July doldrums, and things just don't happen until we start to get into the early part of August. And as we look at the GFS model going out until, I believe this takes us 16 days to the 29th, a big, huge ridge of high pressure just kind of sitting out over the middle part of the Atlantic Ocean. I don't think that's going to be breaking down. Everything kind of drifting its way westward here and moving off toward the northwest. But over the next several days, you just don't see anything looking organized, at least on this computer model. The Euro model is the other model we look at for the long range. Again, a big ridge of high pressure out here in the middle part of the Atlantic. Everything kind of working its way off toward the west and northwest around that. Again, if anything were to develop out in this particular area, it most likely would shoot off toward the north and not come across Florida. But again, looking at the Euro model, and this goes out 10 days, just not seeing anything but a steady stream of moisture trying to work its way across the Atlantic Ocean, and I don't see anything really trying to develop close to home either. Water temperatures, of course, are very high. We don't have any worries there. If something were to try to develop, it would be able to work with these waters just about everywhere in the Atlantic Basin, and the tropical cyclone heat potential just continues to get higher and higher and higher. This is the map that we look at when we do have a tropical system out there and look for the potential of hitting these eddies of very warm, deep waters and have the chance for some rapid intensification. But with nothing developing out there and high wind shear and lots of dust, the tropical cyclone heat potential is probably just going to continue to get higher and higher. Well, I wanted to do, since we don't have a lot of tropical weather to talk about, I wanted to go through some of the storm surge maps that come from the National Hurricane Center. And what I've got on here is South Louisiana, and this is a Category 1 hurricane with a storm surge up to 9 feet. And of course, you can see that right along the Cameron Parish coast here, you've got that 9 foot there, and it doesn't go very far inland. The oranges go up to 6. The yellows go the oranges go up to 5, the yellows go up to 3, and then everything that's in blue here is 1 to 3 feet. So you can see, even with a Category 1 hurricane, most of your storm surge inundation is going to be Iberia, St. Mary as well, and then Vermilion and Cameron parishes. But in some of the marshy areas up here, you can get some rivers and some bayous to kind of back up, and that's why you would get some of the flooding there. So just for reference, here's Lafayette, here's New Iberia, this is Abbeville, this is Kaplan, Gaydon, and Lake Arthur. And then over here to the east, you got Franklin down here. Then Morgan City is actually protected by a levee system, so storm surge probably wouldn't affect them quite as much. But I'm going to go ahead and go interact with this. We're going to move it up to a Category 2, and you can still see where all the dots are. New Iberia, you might be starting to see some flooding there along LA 14 and also over toward Delcambre and Erath, and perhaps getting up to around Abbeville. Now remember, if a Category 2 hurricane strikes, not all of these places are going to be inundated. This is going to be very, very close to the center of circulation. So this is just the potential of what could happen in a Category 2 hurricane, regardless of where this is going to be going. But let's move it up to a Category 3 just for fun. And you can see how the red areas of over 9 feet have now made their way all the way to Delcambre and Erath, even parts of New Iberia. Gaydon and Kaplan starting to get in on that 2 to 3 foot storm surge, and a lot of that is backwater flooding. As the water pushes in, it pushes the rivers and bayous up as well. And then when you get into the Category 4 and Category 5 inundation, that's where not only are you having the Gulf waters pushing so far inland, but it's pushing the rivers and bayous. And remember, we have Lafayette right there. And you can see on the south side of the city, you can get some inundation there. As the water pushes inland, it's going to push the Vermilion River backwards, and you can get that flooding. And if you flooded during the flood of 2016 along the Vermilion River, most likely if we were to see a Category 5 hurricane perhaps come in right here off the Vermilion Parish coast and move inland and really push the major water up ahead of that center of circulation as it continues to move in, you could see some inundation. So that's why it's so important to run from the water, but yet hide from the wind. And the reason why I'm going through all of these is because even though things are very quiet right now, we are going to be ramping up on the activity. July, again, this time of the year is relatively slow. We don't have a whole lot of action. But once we cross over into August and start to get to the middle of August and the early part of September, that's when the bulk, about 70% of all of our tropical systems develop. And that's where a lot of the landfalling hurricanes happen here in the United States as well. So with the flood inundation, you need to have your evacuation plans ready to go. You also need to have the basics. And these are the things that, again, I asked a couple of weeks ago on a Friday when there wasn't a lot going on. Do what you can do right now. There's 15 different groups of items that are on this list, and I encourage you to grab at least 5. If you got 5 the last time, find 5 more that's on there. But these are the basic things that you would need for a couple, 3 days of survival without electricity, and without the stores closed. Make sure you've got the gas out there. If you've been reading the stories about what's been happening over in parts of central and southeastern Texas, the central coast and the southeastern coast of Texas, with the electricity still out in many places, folks are suffering. So the batteries, the flashlights, the water, and the non-perishable foods are very, very important, and also making sure you got entertainment for the kids as well as all the pet supplies that you could possibly need. So as I've said, this is the time to get it when everything is quiet. Try to take the chance this weekend. If you're out at the store, maybe grab a few extra batteries. Go to the dollar store, grab yourself a couple of cheap flashlights. Bottled water, there's plenty of that sitting on the shelves right now. And plenty of cookies and cakes and crackers and all kinds of that non-perishable food. I will recommend, though, as a father of 4 boys, get that food and then hide it, because we have a really bad habit of getting all the fun hurricane non-perishable foods and then just cruising through it as fast as we can, because it's all sweets and junk food and things like that. So you might want to hide it if you have kids. That way you have it when you are ready. Well, I hope everybody has a really great weekend. I'm not expecting any tropical weather, so everything should be nice and quiet. I hopefully won't have to visit with you on social media a whole lot this weekend either. The last 2 weekends really kind of got me with Hurricane Beryl and the every 3-hour update. So I am kind of looking forward to an actual weekend this weekend. But I do enjoy the these weekday conversations for lunch. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and also turn on those notifications so you know when Let's Talk Tropics starts up live, or when Acadiana Weather Today, that morning show that has a little chat about the morning weather conditions and how they're going to affect your day. That usually drops sometime between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. And of course, there's all kinds of other videos and fun things that you can do on my page. You can go to YouTube and just search Acadiana Weather Today. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker. Have a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday.